So here we are in the explanation of Qatrun Nada, continuing. We're still talking about N al Masdariyah, the infinitive particle. We talked about when knowledge comes in front of N and when assumption comes before it, and when neither of those come before it. And we spoke about when it's necessary to say N, you can't hide it. And when it's valid to say it or not say it, you have a choice, and either way would be correct in language. And we did start talking about when it's necessary to hide and we started going over Hattaa, and we didn't finish talking about Hattaa. And what I want to do is back up and let's start from the top of the issue of when it's necessary to hide and we'll review what we said about Hatta, inshallah, and if we make it beyond that, we'll keep going.
Because I'm not that.
And so the author, may Allah have mercy upon him, said, وَلَمَّا ذَكَرْتُ أَنَّهَا تُضْمَرُ بَعْدَ لَامِ الْجُحُودِ. Since I mentioned that N is hidden after Lamul Juhud, Lamul Juhud, that's the lamb that comes after negating Kana, that's the past tense, or negating Yakun, that's the present tense, present or future tense. But negating this when it refers to the past, though, meaning lam is in front of it. So, really quick here, you say ma kana. So here, kana is past tense of kaun. Kaun means being. So kana, he was. We're negating this past tense being. So ma kana, and then there appears after that ma kana somewhere a lamb with a kasra, li, and then a mudari' verb, liyaf'ala, ma kana liyaf'ala kada. So now it means he would never do such and such. This lam with the kasra here, that's called lamul juhud. Lamul juhud. What is this lamul juhud? Really, it's a harf jar. In origin goes all the way back to being a harf jar. You know, harf jar, the lam. That's harf jar, li. So that lam, that's a harf jar, it was taken and used after negating kana to what? What does it do here? It emphasizes the negation. That lam is emphasizing the negation. Ma kana li yaf'ala kadha. He would never. Could say he wouldn't. See, he would never. To be emphatic in your negation there. So, in this case, why is the verb here mansub liyaf'ala? As you know, the verb here is mansub by, what's our topic? N. and mudmara. The verb is mansub by and mudmara, a veiled or hidden n. And in this case, we must hide this n. We cannot say it. That would be wrong. You don't say ma kana li an yaf'ala kadha. And it's the same judgment if you said lam yakun lam yakun. So yakun, that's the mudari' verb for kaun. So kaun means what here? Kaun, that's the masdar. Kaun is the masdar for, you say kana in the past, he was. Yakunu in the present, he is. Kaunan, kana yakunu kaunan, being, existing. That's the ism, the noun, kaun. Past tense verb kana. Present and future tense verb yakunu. Okay. When you bring lam, as you know, lam assimilates that present tense verb and turns it back to the past. It flips it into the past. So you have yakunu, any verb really, any mudari verb who wants to be, who is for the present or the future. And there he is, being a nice mudari verb. And then here comes lem. Lem says, قد يقال, so you're one of those present future tense verbs, huh? You must not know who I am. So I'll flip you into the past. Aqlibuka, I will flip you into the past, you verb. How do you like that? Now you're going to be for the past. So then he flips that verb into the past. So lam yakun means was not in the past. Although yakun is what? Mudari' verb for present or future. Lam flipped them to the past. So now we have here two cases, ma kana and lam yakun. In both these cases, the kaun is being negated. The kaun is being negated. And in both these cases, the kaun is past. It's a past kaun, a past being. So when you negate this past kaun, whether you use the past tense verb itself, ma kana, with any pronoun too, ma kuntu, ma kunta, ma kanu, or if you use the present tense verb but you flip it into the past, and with any pronouns, lam yakun, lam akun, lam takunu, lam yakunu, then this is a kaunun manfi, a negated kaun, mudui, in the past. So when you have that, so that's part of our formula here, a negated kaun in the past. And then we bring this lam, li, ma kana li, lam yakun li, ma kunta li, lam takun li. I'm saying li, stretching it. Shouldn't be. Ma kana li, lam yakun li. And then you bring mudari verb, any mudari verb you want here. ليفعل كذا ليقول ما كان ليقول ذلك, he would never say that. ما كان ليذهب هناك, he would never go there. So then when this lam, which is really in reality a harf jar, and harf jar can't go in front of a verb, it links to this verb ليفعل, but really it's linking to n. and then the n with the verb are acting together as a noun, which is the gerund. So there's an infinitive here, but n is hidden. So this verb is going to be mansub, and n is hidden necessarily. We must hide this n. So we already covered that. I just reviewed it for you really quick because the author says, وَلَمَّا ذَكَرْتُ أَنَّهَا تُضْمَرُ بَعْدَ لَامِ الْجُحُودِ, when it was, or since I mentioned that n is hidden after lamul juhud, the lamb of denial, this lamb with a kasra that appears after ma kana or lam yakun, you must hide n in that case. He's saying, I talked about that. So since I did, استطردت في ذكر بقية المسائل التي يجب فيها إضمار أن. I digressed to mention the rest of the cases in which it is necessary to hide n. So he says, إحداها بعد حتى, one of them is to do so after Hatta. What does hatta mean? So he's going to tell us what hatta means. But generally, when you're translating, hatta is typically going to mean until. Sometimes it means even, like you say, even that. Akaltu samakata hatta rasaha. I ate the fish, even its head. Or things like that. But we're going to see, he's going to tell us the meanings that are relevant for us. So one of those cases when n must be hidden is after hatta. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ لِلْفِعْلِ بَعْدَ حَتَّى حَالَتَيْنِ. But know that there's some details when it comes to hatta. There are two cases for the verb when it appears after hatta. الرفع والنصب. الرفع and النصب. The verb's either going to be in a state of rafa or it's going to be in a state of nasb, which means either way you're not going to say n, because if the verb, we're going to see, if the verb is in a state of rafa, then there was no n to make it mansub, so it's going to be in a state of rafa. So you're not going to say hatta n and then come with the verb that's marfu', so there's no n there. Or the verb after hatta would be in the state of nasb, so there is n, but you're not going to say it. That's our topic right now, when you must hide n. So either way, you're not going to say n. فَأَمَّا النَّصْبُ. Now concerning when the verb after hatta is in a state of nasb, it's mansub. فشرطه كون الفعل مستقبلا بالنسبة إلى ما قبلها. The condition for that is for the verb to be in compared to what's before it, in comparison to whatever was mentioned before it, after, for the future. This verb that's after hatta, if it's mansub, then it must be that it's in time after whatever is before it. So here I gave you an analogy for the Arabic language. This Arabic language is like a meaning radar. There's so many meanings. The meanings out there, those are the things you're trying to hone in on. So you know how you have the radar, whenever the line passes by and it catches something, there's a blip. So you say, oh, there's something right there at those coordinates. It's getting closer, it's getting further. That radar, that's what the radar does for you. So the Arabic language will detect all these meanings for you. What we're learning now is showing us how to use the radar. So now we're talking about a case where the verb that came after hatta is after, yani, in time, is future in comparison to what's before hatta. Well, I'm giving you this analogy of the radar because I want to give you something that makes these details relevant for you, so that you don't see them simply as, okay, that's a rule too. Oh, there's another rule. Oh, there's another rule. All these rules, lots and plenty of rules for us. They have a reason. So you're going to see, inshallah. سواء كان مستقبلا بالنسبة إلى زمن التكلم أم لا. And this is whether or not it were truly for the future in terms of the time of saying the statement or not. Meaning, so this how we're learning how to use the radar here. So these are the knobs here, so we can fine tune here. Meaning what? Meaning you have a speaker. This speaker is saying something, of course, because he's a speaker. So what he's saying, he could be talking about something that happened in the past. So now that he's talking now in the present, and he's talking about something in the past, so that means that what he's saying is in the future compared to what he's talking about. What he's presently saying now, talking, is future compared to what he's talking about. That's one thing. It could be that that's, though, not the case. Yani, let's see here. فالأول, the first is like كقوله تعالى. It's like when Allah says, when He told us about what the Israelites said, لن نبرح عليه عاكفين حتى يرجع إلينا موسى. They said, we will not stop worshiping this calf. لن نبرح عليه عاكفين. العاكفين يعني المقيمين. We won't stop being steadfast. لن نبرح. We won't stop. عليه عاكفين. Being steadfast to worshiping this calf. They said, this is what they told Aaron. Because he told them, don't do that. He was in charge. They said, Hatta, until what? Yarji'a ilayna Musa. Hatta yarji'a ilayna Musa. Until yarji'a Musa yarji'a ilayna. Until Moses returns to us. So they're talking. The story is in the past. But if we just take their story and consider it the present, that this is what's happening as we're telling the story. So they were saying in their own time, we won't stop doing this until the future, which is when Moses comes back. Right now, in our present, we won't stop doing this until the future. Now, if you're telling this story in Now, for us to tell this is the future in comparison to that story. So our now telling this story, that doesn't matter here. But it's relevant for the case. So that's how you're fine-tuning your meanings, differentiating. Here, he's teaching us to tell the difference between something. So here, for their present, they were talking about something for the future. فإن رجوع موسى عليه السلام مستقبل بالنسبة إلى الأمرين جميعا. Indeed, the return of Moses is in the future compared to both matters. Compared to their talking, their informing, Moses didn't come back yet. Compared to their time of informing, and also Moses' return is after what they're doing, is after what they're actually doing, which is that they said, we won't stop. So in this case, the verb is mansub, hatta yaruji'a, because of its future tense. It's being after what came before it. What came before it is their consistency in worshiping the calf. Moses' return is after that. And Moses' return is after their talking also. So we're going to distinguish between those two. فإن رجوع موسى عليه السلام مستقبل بالنسبة إلى الأمرين جميعا. So this is a case where the act that's after Hattaa is future compared to both matters. وَالثَّانِي كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. And the second case is like when Allah said, وَزُلْزِلُوا حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ. They were shaken until the messenger says... ... They were shaken until the messenger says... So it's literal translation here. وَزُلْزِلُوا, that's past tense verb. They were shaken in the past. زُلْزِلُوا. حَتَّى, until يَقُولُ الرَّسُولُ, the messenger says... That's present tense verb there. حَتَّى يَقُولَ, did I say يَقُولُ? حَتَّى يَقُولَ. حَتَّى يَقُولَ, the messenger says... That's a present tense verb there, says. So that's why I translated it like that. And they were shaken until the messenger says... ... This is the 214th verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. The previous one was the 91st verse of Surah Taha. What's going on here? لأن قول الرسول وإن كان ماضيا بالنسبة إلى زمن الإخبار. Because what the messenger says, although it is before the time of informing, إلا أنه مستقبل بالنسبة إلى زلزالهم. It's still, though, after they're being shaken. It's still after they're being shaken. So there, take that, put that, that's some more mental protein there. Let your mind absorb that, and then your radar is going to start working even better and better. So we have here the time of talking and the time of the act. A future action being spoken about, but maybe the future that's being spoken about is before the time of talking. وَلِحَتَّى الَّتِي يُنصَبُ الْفِعْلُ بَعْدَهَا مَعْنَيَانِ. So this hatta, when the verb is mansub after it, it has two meanings. فَتَارَةً تَكُونُ بِمَعْنَى كَيْ. So sometimes it means K, so that, or for the purpose of. وَذَلِكَ إِذَا كَانَ مَا قَبْلَهَا عِلَّةً لِمَا بَعْدَهَا. That will be if what's before hatta is a reason for what's after it. Still tweaking your knobs here. That's if what's before hatta is a reason for what's after it. naHw, for example. أسلم حتى تدخل الجنة. So I could translate that as embrace Islam so that you enter the garden. Embrace Islam so that hatta you enter the garden. So it wouldn't seem to me to be right to translate it as until you enter the garden. Embrace Islam until hatta. Embrace Islam up until. No, it means so that, for the reason of. وَتَارَةً تَكُونُ بِمَعْنَى إِلَى. And sometimes it would mean, not for the reason of, it would mean until, or up until. وَذَلِكَ إِذَا كَانَ مَا بَعْدَهَا غَايَةً لِمَا قَبْلَهَا. And that would be if what's after hatta is a limit for what's before it, or it's an extent for what's before hatta. كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, like this ayah that we were just looking at, the one about Moses. لَن نَبْرَحَ عَلَيْهِ عَاكِفِينَ حَتَّى يَرْجِعَ إِلَيْنَا مُوسَى. We won't stop worshiping it until, the limit of our worshiping that is up until Moses comes back to us. وَكَقَوْلِكَ لَأَثِيرَنَّ حَتَّى تَطْلُعَ الشَّمْسِ. And like if you were to say this sentence, it means, I swear I shall strive on. I shall move on hatta until تطلع الشمس, the sun rises. Until the sun rises. So that's the extent. That's the limit. He's saying that's how far I'm going to go. So we have then hatta having the meaning of the reason for. And we have hatta having the meaning of the extent. And we know that hatta enables us to understand the difference between the time of speaking and the time that's going on in what you're saying. The time of speaking versus the time of what's going on in what you're saying. وَقَدْ تَصْلُحُ لِلْمَعْنَيَيْنِ مَعًا. And it's possible that hatta would be suitable for both meanings simultaneously. كَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى, like when Allah said, فَقَاتِلُوا الَّتِي تَبْغِي حَتَّى تَفِيءَ إِلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. Fight the group that transgresses. Fight قَاتِلُوا الَّتِي, the one that, the group that تَبْغِي, transgresses, goes beyond the bounds. It steps out of line. Goes out of its lane. تبغي تجاوز الحد. That group of Muslim insurgents. This is what we're talking about here in this ayah. Oh Muslims, oh just Muslims who are with the Caliph. Oh people of justice with the Caliph. Fight the transgressing Muslim insurgents. Even if you had to kill them, but not if they're running away. You can't finish them off. حَتَّى تَفِيءَ إِلَى أَمْرِ اللَّهِ. Until, if it means the extent, until it returns to the command of God. till it comes back into compliance. Yani, in obedience to the caliph, that is. That's the command of God, to obey the caliph. So we could explain that, we could translate that here with the meaning of the extent of that fighting until they fall back in line. Or we can explain that as the reason. Fight them so that they return to the command of God. That's the 9th ayah of Surah Al-Hujurat. يحتمل أن يكون المعنى كي تفي أو إلى أن تفي. So it's possible that the meaning is so that they return, or that it means until they return. والنصب في هذه المواضع وما أشبهها بأن مضمرة بعد حتى حتما. And so the nasb that is in these spots, and whatever's like them, is by N. Not hatta, by N. Mudmara, a hidden one. After hatta. Not before hatta, after hatta. Because you have hatta and then you have the verb. Hatta yarji'a. So where's N? It's after hatta, before the verb. But we're hiding it. So the meaning is hatta an yarji'a la bi hatta nafsiha. And it's not hatta itself that's making the verb mansub. Khilafan lil kufiyin, as opposed to the Kufis. لأنها قد عملت بالأسماء الجر. Because, why is it not hatta itself? Because hatta is harf jar. كقوله تعالى حتى مطلع الفجر. حتى مطلع الفجر. Like when Allah says this 5th ayah of Surah Al-Qadr, until the break of dawn. So what's that hatta? That's the extent. Until salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. That night of Al-Qadr, it is salam hatta matla'il fajr. Until, so it's extent. That's the same hatta here. So this hatta, as we can see, it made matla' majroor. That means it's a harf jar. And also hatta heen. Hatta heenin. For a while, until a time. Until a time. Hatta heen. That's interesting. For a time. Look at that. Hatta heen. In translation, we might say for a time, for a while. Here, for means until. With this same for, couldn't it mean somewhere so that? Yeah. For has that meaning of so that. So I just found it interesting that I found here. Just like hatta can mean for the reason of, or it can mean the extent. Now we found this word for. It means here hatta heen, the extent, and the same word for could mean for the reason of. MashaAllah. So anyway, so when you say hatta heen, until a time, for a time, that's in many spots in the Quran. Who typed up this document said Surah Yusuf 35. It's in many places. Surah Al-Safat, other places. So, فَلَوْ عَمِلَتْ فِي الْأَفْعَالِ النَّصْبِ. So if this hatta were what was doing nasb in the verbs, لزم أن يكون لنا عامل واحد يعمل تارة في الأسماء وتارة في الأفعال وهذا لا نظير له في العربية. Then it would be binding that we have a single agent, which is an operating word, this word that has power to do something. This agent would be then, if this were the case, being a harf jar and being a harf nasb at the same time. A harf jar, but harf jar is special for nominals. You can't take a harf jar and put it on a verb, right? We know that. You should know that by now. Harf jar is special for nominals, so it doesn't apply to a verb. Abadan bil marra doesn't work for a verb. So if hatta were what's making the verb mansub, then we would basically, what he's saying is we'd basically have a harf jar that does nasb in a verb. And then he said, وَهَذَا لَا نَظِيرَ لَهُ فِي الْعَرَبِيَّةِ, and this has no similar. There's nothing like that in Arabic. Which, that's a gauging tool there. Does an issue have a similar in Arabic? Is there anything comparable to it in Arabic in some way, even if it's the reverse? No? There's nothing like it in Arabic at all? Khalas then. We're not going to say that's the case, because there's nothing like that in Arabic. وَأَمَّا رَفْعُ الْفِعْلِ بَعْدَهَا فَلَهُ ثَلَاثَةُ شُرُوطٍ. But for the verb to be marfu' after hatta, there are three conditions. الأول كونه مسببا عما قبلها. The first is to be caused by what's before it. For the verb after hatta, for the act after hatta, to be caused by what's before hatta. ولهذا امتنع الرفع في نحو ما سرت حتى أدخل البلد لأن انتفاء السير لا يكون سببا للدخول. This is why you can't say with رفع ما سرت نحو ما سرت حتى أدخل البلد. This is why you can't say with رفع ما سرت حتى أدخل البلد. أدخل, you can't say it that way with the dhamma. So you might say, oh, what? Huh? Oh, man, there's a lot that's going on here. That's because you're still learning how to use the knobs. So you can hone in on those meanings. Then you're gonna know. You say, no, not with a dhamma there. It doesn't work there. You're gonna break the radar. You're not using it right. ما سرت حتى أدخل البلد. You can't say حتى أدخل here because the denial of walking. ما سرت, I didn't walk. I didn't translate it for you. ما سرت حتى أدخل البلد. I didn't walk until I entered the town. I didn't walk. ما سرت, I didn't walk. حتى أدخل البلد, until I entered the town. لأن انتفاء السير لا يكون سببا للدخول, because the denial of walking is not the reason for entering the town. The denial of walking didn't cause entering the town. The not walking didn't cause entering the town. So you can't do rafa' here, because rafa' after hatta, one of its conditions is that what's before hatta causes what's after hatta. وفي قولك سرت حتى تطلع الشمس لأن السير لا يكون سببا لطلوعها. Also, if you were to say, I walked until sunrise. I walked until sunrise. You can't say here حتى تطلع الشمس, I walked until sunrise because the walking didn't cause the sunrise. So you can't say سرت حتى تطلع الشمس. So if you're getting, knowing how to use your knobs properly here on your radar console, then and now your radar's, it's going around looking for meanings, and then someone says سرت حتى تطلع الشمس, then your radar's going to go past there. There's no blip. You say, huh? No, that one doesn't work there. Wrong frequency. It's wrong frequency, bro. حتى تطلع لأن السير لا يكون سببا لطلوعها, because the walking does not cause the sunrise. الثاني أن يكون زمن الفعل الحال لا الاستقبال. A second condition for the verb after حتى to be مرفوع is for the time of the verb to be present, not future. Present, not future. All these fine differences here. All this surrounding حتى. على العكس من شرط النصب. The reverse of the condition of the verb being mansub. إلا أن الحال تارة يكون تحقيقا وتارة يكون تقديرا. But sometimes the present is literal. It's literal present tense. And sometimes it is يعني تقديرا, an estimated present tense. Perhaps we could say a supposed present tense. Supposedly it's the present and what's being addressed to you. You'll see. يعني, it, in other words, means you're telling it like it's present. فالأول كقولك سرت حتى أدخلها إذا قلت ذلك وأنت في حالة الدخول. So the first is like for you to say سرت حتى أدخلها. I walked until I enter it. Or I walked until I'm entering it. In the present tense. I walked until I'm entering it. So difference between the English and Arabic. Same verb in Arabic. حتى أدخلها. Until I enter, until I'm entering. Changing the form in English. In Arabic, أدخل, فعل مضارع, same verb could be for the present or the future. سرت حتى أدخلها. I walked until I'm entering it. And you said that while you're actually entering. So it means that it's present. For sure. It's literally the present. Because, in other words, you're walking, and now you're finally there. Your feet are hurting, and you're finally there, and then you said, سرت حتى أدخلها. I walked until I'm entering it. So you're going to say أدخلوا, because it's for the present, literally. So when you were in that circumstance with someone, and he told you that, and he said, حتى أدخلها, you're going to say, that's the right frequency there. Yes. Present, now, literally. And it's caused. What's after it is caused by what's before it. إذا قلت ذلك وأنت في حالة الدخول. If you said that while you were in the state of entering. والثاني كالمثال المذكور إذا كان السير والدخول قد مضيا. The second case is like the same example, the same sentence. سرت حتى أدخلها. I walked until I'm entering it. إذا كان السير والدخول قد مضيا. But your walking and your entering have already happened in the past. لكنك أردت حكاية الحال. But your intent was to express the past as if it's happening. That's called hikayatul hal. Hikayatul hal. When you tell the past as if it's happening. You say, okay, look, let me tell you what happened, right? Yeah, this was years ago. So I'm in my house, right? And then this guy walks in. So you're saying it like it's happening. وعلى هذا جاء الرفع في قوله تعالى. And this is the way to explain the ayah when it's recited with a dhamma. وَزُلْزِلُوا حَتَّى يَقُولُ الرَّسُولُ. Same ayah we already quoted. 214th ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. And they were shaken until the messenger says. So if that ayah is recited with a dhamma, then now you're getting good with your frequencies. So you're going to say, so this means then, according to this recitation, that this is a telling of the past as if it's happening presently. لأن الزلزال والقول قد مضيا, because both the shaking of the believers and the saying of the messenger had already happened. الثالث أن يكون ما قبلها تاما ولهذا امتنع الرفع في نحو سيري حتى أدخلها وفي نحو كان سيري حتى أدخلها إن حملت كان على النقصان دون التمام. And the third condition is that what's before hatta is complete. وَلِهَذَا امْتَنَعَ. This is why you can't say with rafa' سَيْرِي حَتَّى أَدْخُلُهَا. My walking, سَيْرِي, my walking is حَتَّى أَدْخُلُهَا with a dhamma. You can't say حَتَّى أَدْخُلُهَا. My walking is until I enter it. My walking is until I enter it. Yeah, if it had a dhamma, it would mean until I'm entering it. My walking is until I am entering it. وفي نحو كان سيري حتى أدخلها. This is hard to translate here. The point he wants to make is what's hard to translate here. If I translate it, the translation comes out like a complete sentence though. My walking is until I am entering it. That English sentence is a correct sentence. So what he's saying, what the point he wants to make, is not very clearly showing up in the translation. وَفِي نَحْوِ كَانَ سَيْرِي حَتَّى أَدْخُلَهَا. And like when you say كَانَ سَيْرِي حَتَّى أَدْخُلَهَا, إِنْ حُمِلَتْ كَانَ عَلَى النُّقْصَانِ دُونَ التَّمَامِ. MashaAllah. You can't say kana sayri hatta adkhuluha for dhamma if kana requires the assimilation of an entire sentence and doesn't require a mere subject. This one, we're not going to go far here today. Actually, I'll need to review that anyway. I don't really have the words I need for explaining this third condition. Not to mention that this point here, if kana requires assimilating an entire sentence, you know how you say Zaydun qa'imun. If you reviewed your lessons very, very, very well, you remember we talked about this. Zaydun qa'imun, that's a complete sentence. So you can bring kana. Kana will assimilate the entire sentence. So it becomes Zaydun qa'iman. Kana Zaydun qa'iman. In this case, not enough to say kana Zaydun. It's incomplete now because kana needs to assimilate an entire sentence. That's the meaning of either in humilat kana ala nuqsan. When kana is deficient, that means it needs to assimilate an entire sentence. It's not enough to have a simple doer for it, one word. This doesn't work here like this. But it is possible that you could use kana in a way that it takes a single doer. So all this talk here, maybe we need to come back to that. Or we're going to keep going, and then you're going to come back to it later when we learn more, and then you're going to review, and then you say, after we took the rules of kana, and also here, this first example, I need to review. So we're going to stop there. MashaAllah. And that does complete the talk about Hattaa. Very beneficial review for me, alhamdulillah. Wallahi, when I took this, the very first time when I took this talk about Hattaa, it wasn't crystal clear for me. I remember very well taking this for the first time, sitting in class, as if I'm sitting in class now when I took that. And all of that, I wasn't really comprehending it. But now I have better comprehension of that. Since I have more knowledge since then, and since I have reviewed with you, also, it came clearer for me, much clearer. And I hope that it's clear for you, but there's a good chance you need to review this so that it soaks in for you. So if your heart is a sponge soaking in this information, maybe now your sponge is saturated. Not everything's soaked in yet. So give it some time, and then your sponge is going to be able to take in some more, inshallah. Yani, that means if you keep studying and you keep thinking about the issue, then your sponge will be able to absorb more. Do you have any question I can answer for you?